My dad abandoned us when I was 6. 20 years later, I sent him to prison for murder. I remember the night my dad left like it was burned into my brain. He had his duffel bag already packed. I was 6, sitting cross-legged on the living room floor, watching cartoons while my mom reheated spaghetti. He crouched down, ruffled my hair, and said, "Be good sport. I'll be back soon." He kissed my forehead. Walked out the door. Never came back. My mom didn't cry right away. She just stood there holding a wooden spoon, mouth slightly open, like if she stayed still long enough, he might return and say it was all a bad joke. But he didn't. We found out a week later that he'd run off with his secretary, Jenna, a woman my mom once invited over for Christmas dinner. It was like we were the old coat he left behind. Forgotten and inconvenient. My mom went through hell. She had no college degree, no savings, and a mountain of bills. She worked as a waitress during the day and cleaned offices at night. I'd stay up just to hear the key turn in the lock and know she made it home. Some nights I pretended to be asleep so she wouldn't feel guilty. I'd hear her crying quietly on the edge of the bed, whispering, "It's gonna be okay. It has to be okay." I made myself a promise. I was gonna make something of myself. Not just for me, but for her. I worked hard. Straight A's in school. Debate team captain. Volunteering. Scholarship applications by the dozen. I didn't party. I didn't date. I studied while other kids were out living. My life had one goal, law school. It paid off. I got into one of the top programs in the country, on nearly a full ride. I called my mom the second I got the letter, and she cried so hard she couldn't talk. That was the first time I'd heard her happy cry in over a decade. Fast forward a few years, I'm working in the DA's office, just a junior ADA trying to build my career. That's when his name came across my desk. My father. Charged with second-degree murder. I nearly dropped the file. His wife, Jenna, had been found dead in their home. Blunt force trauma from a heavy object. The house was torn apart, like they'd been fighting. He claimed it was a break-in. But nothing was stolen. The police were suspicious. So was I. I disclosed everything to my supervisor. "I'm his son," I told her. He walked out on me and my mom when I was 6. She paused, then said, "You want off the case?" I shook my head. "No," I said. "I want to bury him." The trial was brutal. I kept it professional, but inside, I was a storm. Seeing him in person for the first time in 20 years was like looking at a ghost who still managed to ruin your life. He looked smaller than I remembered. Grayer. But still smug. His defense was weak. He claimed someone broke in and killed his wife during a robbery. The house showed signs of a struggle, but none of her valuables were taken. Her purse was untouched. Even her wedding ring was still on. Then there was the murder weapon, a marble bookend shaped like a globe. It had blood and hair on it. Forensics confirmed it had no prints, as if it was wiped clean. The defense argued that the robbers must have been wearing gloves or had wiped it. Also, the CCTV footage of the outside of the house was deleted. The defense argued that these were professional robbers who knew how to cover their tracks. They argued that since there was no way to link the murder weapon to him, there was not enough evidence to convict him, but I had a feeling that he had done it. I needed more than a feeling. I needed something undeniable. And I found it, in the dumbest detail imaginable. Jenna had posted an Instagram story just a few hours before she died. It was a short video of her making dinner. You could see the kitchen. In the background, on the shelf, was the full pair of bookends, both of them. I called the tech specialist to retrieve the metadata. The video was timestamped 6:12 p.m. The medical examiner estimated the time of death between 6:30 and 7 p.m. We asked the police to try and search his house again to find the other bookend. They combed the house this time and found it wrapped in a garbage bag under the basement sink. This had both his fingerprints and blood of his wife along with tiny amount of muscle and bone tissue. This was all I needed. He used the damn bookend after she posted the video, after dinner had already started. So much for their break-in theory. When I presented that evidence in court, his face paled. It was the first time I saw him realize he wasn't going to walk away from this. But what made it worse, what made it so much worse, was his reason. He'd cheated again. Another woman. This time younger, even dumber than the last. Jenna found out. They fought. He told her he wanted a divorce. She screamed that she'd take him for everything. That she'd ruin him. So he panicked. He grabbed the first thing in reach and smashed her skull. He killed her because she was going to take away his money and his ego. That's all he ever cared about. Himself. The jury didn't take long. Guilty. Second-degree murder. He looked at me when the verdict was read. I don't think he recognized me at first, not really. I wasn't the 6-year-old he left on the floor with cartoons playing in the background. I was a man now. His son. Who just got his vengeance. And the one who just put him behind bars. After court, I walked outside and found my mom waiting on the steps. She didn't say anything. Just pulled me into a hug and held me like she had all those years ago when I didn't understand why my dad wasn't coming home. "Thank you," she whispered. "I told you I'd make something of myself," I said. She smiled through her tears. "You did more than that. You made us whole." Moral of the story. Hard work pays off, and always hold dear your loved ones.